Welcome back to the Malt Miller YouTube channel. Today we are looking at one of the pitfalls whilst brewing beer, because we're about making your beer better. We're taking a look at diacetyl. James, we are just coming up to competition season, and actually we've done quite a lot of competitions here now.
Yeah, we've run some with our friends over at Elusive. We have our one that we're judging very soon with Burning Sky, and yeah, we've been able to go along and judge in some of the other bigger competitions that happen throughout the year here in the UK.
One of the biggest faults that we pick up in beer that's sent into us for competitions is diacetyl.
Yes, absolutely. Now, many of you will have experienced diacetyl. Even if you're not entirely sure what it is, I'm sure you will have experienced it. It's that moment when you crack open a beer and rather than being hit with those beautiful malt flavours and hop aromas, actually you hit with Werther's Originals instead. Buttery, kind of
Butter-kissed
slick
corn.
Yeah. Now, diacetyl presents itself in beer in this way. You know, it can often give, like we've said, those buttery kind of sweet notes like chlorine, but also like a slickness in the mouth as well, kind of oiliness.
Actually, that is kind of at very, very low levels, you just get that slickness, and then once it becomes more pronounced, you get that full-on butter popcorn.
Yeah.
We'll say one thing, in certain beer styles, an amount of diacetyl is acceptable.
Yeah, very low levels in some Czech lagers, some British beers, ESBs, you know, best bitters. A small amount is acceptable.
Yeah.
However, when it gets out of control,
or when it's in a beer style that is definitely not acceptable.
Yeah, like a big hoppy New England IPA or a West Coast, it's just destructive, completely ruins what you intended as a brewer. Luckily though, we're going to go into some detail about how you might be able to work through the problem or negate the problem entirely. But before we do that, let's just take a very quick look at what diacetyl is.
Come on in, James, what is diacetyl? We need the technical details.
Okay, I don't profess to know this subject entirely. However, diacetyl is an organic compound that's produced by yeast, okay? There's actually a precursor that's produced by yeast called alpha acetolactate.
Well done.
Now, what's important to note is that actually there's kind of a life cycle with diacetyl as well. So it gets produced throughout fermentation by the yeast, but then afterwards the yeast actually consumes it and removes it. So there is a life cycle to it, okay? Which means if we know this and we know how to check for it, we can actually avoid it showing up in our finished beers, okay? Important things to remember though, it is a byproduct of fermentation, of yeast activity. That's going to be important as we get further into this topic of conversation, okay?
It's also a sneaky little bugger because you can have a keg full of beer or beer in a fermenter that you are tasting and it actually tastes okay. You package it. You then send it off to a competition. And then you get notes from the judges saying it's got diacetyl in it, and you're saying, well, it's not got diacetyl in it in my keg, but you can taste it in the packaged beer.
Yes. And you're being very kind.
I am.
Because actually, we've all had this happen to us, and I had it happen to me only last week, where I had packaged up some beer for something we're working on and gave it to some people that I wanted to try the beer. We actually tried it the evening before, and it was fantastic.
It was banging.
Just in the short time frame of about 12 hours in the package, diacetyl had formed, and we opened the beer, poured it, and it was like Werther's Originals. It was absolutely crushing.
We passed forced diacetyl test.
So imagine getting that feedback sheet back that Rob just referred to, but in person from people that you really admire.
And
that's kind of how it went.
And that don't hold back, which is great. That's what we need.
You may find that there are times when you send beer off to be packaged, to be judged at a competition that you've already packaged, and you get your feedback sheet through and it says that there's diacetyl present. That means that something has gone wrong either at packaging stage or when you had thought you had finished fermentation. So what we need to do is understand first of all whether our beer has diacetyl present in it. And what we're going to do now is take you through the steps of how to perform a forced diacetyl test on beer that is yet to be packaged, okay? Now, we need a couple of items, so we're going to gather those together and then we're going to talk you through exactly how to do the process, because it is incredibly easy, but could save you all those vital points on your score sheets. Now, to perform the forced diacetyl test on your beer is actually very straightforward. You don't need a huge amount in the way of equipment. Nope. You need a vessel that you can put a few litres of hot water in that's at about 65 degrees C. You could even do it on a saucepan that's on the hob, so you can keep the temperature bumped up if you need to. And then you need something to put your beer into.
These reagent bottles are absolutely perfect for it, but actually so are Kilner jars that you might have at home, or the other brand Mason jars. Really anything that can be sealed.
Yeah, sealed and that is
heat-proof.
going to be resistant to heat. So
yeah.
Jam jars, great opportunity to reuse some of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, these reagent jars are perfect for it. Now in there we've got a sample of around about 200 ml of beer, and all we have to do is pop it into the warm water. And what that's going to do over the course of the next 15 to 20 minutes is speed up the conversion of the precursors to formation of diacetyl. So if the precursors are there, this will make the diacetyl become prevalent in this short space of time.
And it's purely a sensory test. So we are going to be tasting and primarily smelling the beer.
Yeah, so what we have to do now is leave this for 15 minutes and then come back, remove it from the hot water, leave it to cool down, okay?
Right, that's really important, and
Yep.
we've found that whilst we've been experimenting for this test. If you don't let it cool back down to room temperature, it's a failed test.
Yes.
It needs to cool back down to room temperature.
Yeah, and then we'll be able to move on to seeing whether we've got any diacetyl present in this beer. Rob, we have completed the technical part of our forced diacetyl rest. So our reagent jar has been sat in that warm water bath for a good 15 to 20 minutes, and then we've taken it out of the bath, let it cool down to room temperature. Now, this is the moment of truth. We're going to open the jar and we're going to have a sniff. Ready?
I am.
That's got diacetyl.
I believe the word is honking.
Now, your sensory analysis of this needs to be twofold, right? So you need to give it a smell and give it a taste.
Worty.
Werther's originally.
Yeah.
Have a go.
You're making me taste this, aren't you?
Yeah, have a go. It's really important, actually, if you know somebody that is hypersensitive to diacetyl, because actually it is a scale and some people are more susceptible to it than others. If you're able to, give them a sample. Rob is one of those very people.
Yeah. And actually, one sniff of it, and that's like, it completely ruins it for it.
Yeah. Now there is also that slickness there.
Yeah, yeah.
Oiliness. And it's almost like the hop character is trying to run away from the diacetyl. So
It's a shocker, James.
it is.
Actually, so this beer is already kegged, already carbonated.
Yep.
There's nothing we can do about it at this stage because the mistake has been set way back in the process, which is why it's so important to do this diet rest whilst the beer's still in the fermenter, so we can actually do something about it.
Yes. Now, diacetyl can be formed at 2 points really during your fermentation process. The first is during primary fermentation, as you draw to the end. Now, this is when it's important to do this forced diacetyl test before you move on to any other step in your fermentation process. So when you hit the end of fermentation, or so you might think, perform this test. If you gain a positive result in terms of diacetyl, what you need to do is leave it again for another 24 to 48 hours before you then retest to see whether the diacetyl has been cleaned up by the yeast as part of that natural process and life cycle that we've already talked about.
What temperature are we leaving it at?
It's going to depend on the style of beer that you're producing. For ales, you probably want to raise the temp from where you are by 1 or 2 degrees. So that might be from 18 to 20. If you're already at 20, it might be to 21 or 22 degrees. But you don't need to ramp it quite as far as you might think. If you're producing a lager, and this shows up in your tests, you want to raise it a few more degrees, maybe 4 or 5 degrees for a day or two. Or with lager, be really patient and just leave it at that same temperature for as long as you can. That's why for some lager styles, like Czech style lagers, 3 months maturation gives the yeast plenty of time to clean up after itself.
So the second point where diet can be formed in your beer is at dry hopping, and actually I feel that this is the biggest.
Yes.
This is the biggest one, because we add the hops in at dry hop, and then a small amount of re-fermentation happens, and that causes issues. How do we get around that?
Well, there's a few different ways to approach this. One big one, which I'll come on to right at the end, but actually there's 2 other ways. One is don't add your dry hops until you've passed the diacetyl rest and you've done a soft crash. So you've brought the temperature of your beer in the fermenter down to about 15, 14, maybe 16 degrees. Then move on to dry hop, because you will have dropped a lot of the yeast out of suspension by doing that. You need to make sure, if you can, to draw the yeast off before you add your dry hop. But by doing it at that temperature and removing the yeast, you're going to limit any chances of that formation taking place. Also, with this method, you want to then make sure that you leave your hops in contact for your allotted contact time, which might be a couple of days. Then get rid of them. Then leave it again for a little bit more, maybe another 24 hours before you move on to packaging. Okay? Now, the other method that we've seen some breweries use is actually, once you've done your dry hop, cap the tank and leave it. You know, leave it alone, maybe for as long as a week, right? Because you're letting hop creep take place, you're letting any re-fermentation take place, and you're also letting the diacetyl get chewed up by any yeast that's prevalent in the tank throughout that process as well. So coming on to the final way that we can really avoid this really troublesome area in brewing, especially if you're into making large kind of hoppy IPAs and pale ales, is by adding an enzyme into your brewing process called ALDC. Now, ALDC is something that we sell, but it's widely used in the commercial brewing practices as well because of its ease of use and to bypass that whole kind of troublesome area that I've just touched on.
It stops the precursor for diacetyl forming, so it stops the end product of diacetyl being in the beer.
Yeah, so it's an enzyme that works to sort of change the way that yeast interacts and that production of that precursor that then goes on to create the off flavour that we all know and love as diacetyl. Now, it's weird because diacetyl actually is a product that is used in food manufacturing for creating some of those buttery kind of butterscotch flavours. But for us, we want to get rid of it. So actually using ALDC can be a really easy way to just avoid that problem altogether. And now we've seen various different ways of using it as well in some of the commercial breweries. Commonly, it would be added into the fermenter when you add your yeast. But we've also seen breweries adding it at dry hop as well, so that they're kind of trying to negate both opportunities for diacetyl to be formed. And I think that's a really interesting approach and something we're going to be experimenting with here at Malt Miller HQ.
I also think that this forced diac test should be a routine that you do on every single beer.
Yeah.
It should just be part of the brewing process and something that definitely we will be taking on.
Yeah, absolutely. And also thinking about going right back to the beginning, those of you that are entering competitions, you know, you might not choose to do this process on every single beer you brew. Whilst we would encourage you to do it, we also think that if you're going to be entering a competition, you want to give yourself the best possible chance of getting great feedback and possibly placing in that competition, then you need to make sure you're managing diacetyl as best as you possibly can.
So this extra step in your brewing process, it's nice and easy, it's quite straightforward to do, but actually it's guaranteeing that the beer that you package is going to be the best beer possible. And actually that's a really important thing, because it's by the time you've got to the fermentation stage, you've already put a lot of work, time and energy into doing that. This small process can help, just knowing that the beer that you're packaging, whether it's competition or given away for friends or just beer for drinking, is going to be the best possible beer that you can brew, and that's so important.
Now, if you found this video informative, please make sure that you subscribe to our channel, you hit the bell for notifications, and of course, give this video a thumbs up, because that really helps us and our channel. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and as ever, have a great brew.
Cheers.